Hey everyone, this is HighZealot here and welcome to E6 of the Spring 2016 event. So, E6, you can see here, I'm doing a number of different nodes at the start to show it off because E6 has a way to debuff the boss, which makes the boss a lot more easier to manage because the boss has 900 HP. So you can see here, first of all, we're going back to E5 as you just saw, and what you have to do is S-rank the air raid node, and then from there on you have to go to the actual nodes in E6, 3 of them, to accomplish the full debuff. These debuffs do require a complete S-rank, and there's 4 in total, and doing 2 of them is enough to have a partial debuff, but for full effect you need to do all 4. So first of all, you gotta go to node A, and you gotta fight some submarines. Very simple. The way the nodes work, so there's 3 potential starting locations, and so you pretty much bring a different fleet to get to each of the nodes you need to get to debuff. So I believe it's to start at the middle, you need 4 carriers, I believe, 4 more carriers to start in the middle. For number 1, for number 3, I believe if you have 3 carriers, you start in the north, i.e. the 3rd node, and the 2nd starting location in the south, you start there if you have 2 carriers. At least that's what I think it is. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is pretty much based on your number of characters. 2 or less, 3, and then 4 or more. So here you see, I believe this is node G. Node G, you S-rank this node, very simple. The English wiki does have a recommended fleet for each of these nodes, and then for E5 you pretty much are going to probably S-rank node I, the air raid node of E5, probably at one point when you're doing E5. According to reports from other players, the debuff does happen if you S-rank that node before you start E6, so it should be fine. But players could be wrong, but it should be fine. Shouldn't really matter. I didn't go back to S-rank that node again, so you should be fine. So you can see here, node G. Your recommended fleet contains 2 standard carriers, armored or whatever, 2 battleships of any sort, including aviation battleships or fast battleships, and 2 heavy cruisers in the main fleet. Escort fleet is 1 light cruiser, 2 destroyers, a CLT, and 2 fast battleships. Or you can also bring a heavy cruiser instead of the torpedo cruiser. That would also work. And then finally, we have node L. Node L, well, the way you will get there, you start in the 3rd starting location, i.e. the 3rd location, the northern location, which you need 3 carriers to start at. Then you go to node E, node I, node K, node M, to node L. The compass, I think, can potentially send you to the boss instead of node L, but it shouldn't be that much of a problem. So node L, as you can see, is a lot harder to S-rank because you got Yorktown there, you got the I believe that's one of the destroyer Hime, and yeah, well, not Hime but demon only, but you know what I mean. So you got 2 tough enemies there, and S-ranking this might prove difficult, but it shouldn't be that hard, though I've seen lots of reports, lots of people who seem to not be able to do it on their first tries, which I guess is possible, but you should have much problems because you'll be bringing a fleet that's perfectly geared for taking on node Ls, because you're not planning to take on the boss afterwards. So as you can see here, the recommended fleet here contains 3 carriers. You ideally want your best carriers, and then you have 2 battleships of any sort, a heavy cruiser, a light cruiser, 2 battleships, fast battleships, 2 destroyers, and a torpedo cruiser. That's the recommended fleet from the English wiki. If you want air superiority on node L, you need to bring along 159 air power to have air superiority. Air supremacy, you need 318 AS, and for just airport shell or to deny them air superiority, you need 106. That is according to WikiWiki, the Japanese wiki, which I find the most reliable for getting air superiority numbers in my opinion. And you see her gotta go to Night Bell to finish her off, but Yorktan, she's gonna go down. Shouldn't be too hard. Bismarck is generally there to take her on, and as always, Yorktan can attack at night, even if she is in medium damage, or if you shoot down all her bombers, I think. And now we're on to the actual killing of the boss. So you can see here I'm using the 2 carrier setup with lots of fighters, and bringing a tank as well, because while there's been lots of this, has been a number of disinformation that says the boss is immune to tanks, but she is not immune to tanks. Tanks do have some effect, and there's also other enemies at the boss that are affected by tanks. So bring a tank along, she will be affected by it. And you also do want to bring boss support. In fact, you really need to bring boss support because of how the debuff works. The debuff, the way it works is pretty much, it makes it so your boss support is a lot more deadly. You have to bring a very specific type of boss support. You need to bring a area support when you need to have pretty much, I think, dive bombers. That's what I brought, but I've heard people saying torpedo bombers should also work, but I went with dive bombers. That seems to be what has the biggest effect. And then from there on, the whole point is to try to make it a boss, because your air support is pretty much going to be doing all the work of actually, well, killing the boss, because the boss has 900 HP and just shelling her is not going to do a lot of damage relative to her max HP. So yeah, while 50 damage is more HP than what a destroyer has, it is not a lot of damage compared to what she has total. So the whole purpose here is pretty much to make it a boss. You want to have quite a lot of air superiority for this. So the boss itself, Node N, has an air superiority of can have up to, well, on the final kill it can have a lot, but before the final kill it can have up to you need up to 174 air power to gain air superiority on the boss before the final kill. The route I'm taking goes on the southern route from the second store location to node D, to node G, to node F, to node H. So those nodes, so node D, air superiority, at the most you require 233, and you have node G, which requires only 35, node F requires 233 for air superiority, and then node H, which is air raid node, so you get raided by land-based bombers from the enemy. You need 174 for air superiority. Generally, you do want to bring on a lot of fighters. You want to get air supremacy is the ideal situation in my opinion. So to get air supremacy on the boss before the final kill, you need 348. Or if you want to get air supremacy on node D, you need 465, which is just short of what you need for the final kill. The final kill for air supremacy, you need 460 air power. For air superiority, you just need 234. But air supremacy, I think, is the best because it's gonna arguably help out your air support, which for that you also will. The ideal air support, in my opinion, I think is you bring your best dive bombers on your biggest slot, and on the 4 smaller slots, or like the last slots of all your 4 carriers, you want to bring your best fighters. And that's pretty much how you deal with the boss. So you can see here, this node, very simple. The biggest problem though is since you're using carrier task force, the biggest problem you'll encounter is that since your escort fleet is shelling first, your destroyers are in the biggest threat. to gain Taihad. So you ideally do want to bring Fleet Command Facility because you're pretty much all rely on just making it to the boss and hoping your air support does all the work. So it's arguably, you might want to not continue on to the boss if one of your carrier gets Taihad, because then you lose a lot of air superiority. So you can see one of the reasons why Prince is the flagship is because I need all the slots on Akitsushimiya for Reipus. And that's pretty much how you do it. Lots of air power and get lucky on the boss. Making the boss herself is relatively not that hard. Node D and Node F are the biggest threat because they have the blue-eyed woe. I'm not sure about the other routes you can take, so the 4 carrier routes can take you through. So Node A was a submarine node. I'm not sure what Node C is, but it probably has some sort of routing disadvantages because you can see from the map there are connections from Node H to Node K, and when you go to Node H afterwards you do spin the compass, so theoretically it should be possible to go to Node H to Node K, then Node M, then Node L, and then you're fucked. The first certain route with 3 carriers I also don't think is advisable unless it's possible to go from Node K to Node H, which I'm not sure if it's possible, but I would presume not. And then you gotta rely on the compass and not send you to Node L, where you also get fucked by Yorktown and the destroyer only. But also this music is reportedly lots of people are not that fond of the music for E6 and E7, for like not the boss music but the actual just the general sortie music. I can see why, cause it doesn't really fit the usual Kankai sort of music style. It seems something you'll see in more of a not really, I can't really say it's something you're hearing in like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, though I do remember that one part from I think Conquest of the Stars. There was this one song which was I don't think was the usual classical music, or it was felt kind of like this, I think. Though it's been a while since I watched that, so I could be just remembering wrong. You know how human memories are, they're not that great. But yeah, the boss is the general route, so you can see here Node F, Node D. Your biggest threats are pretty much the blue-eyed woe and enemy battleships. The biggest problem with E6 though, there are a lot of class heavy cruisers, or no wait, light cruisers, who are gonna air cut in your bomber. So you're gonna take lots of your bombers are pretty much not gonna be able to stay skilled, and they're gonna lose their skill. The fairies are gonna die. Lots of lost levels, and then you gotta just keep going because there's really no point to re-leveling your bombers. Your fighters are not gonna have any problem because they always pretty much stay up all fine. And then here we have the air raid node. If you bring your Akitsuki class destroyer, the air cuts in, anti-air cuts in. If you don't have Maya, I used Maya in the previous map, but ideally you will want Maya instead of Prince in your main fleet to air cut in for AA cut in, and then you want 2 destroyers, better destroyers, for the boss. So I made some mistakes of I upgraded I was thinking on bringing Kamikaze, but I ended up I didn't actually realize that she couldn't equip the tank. So I upgraded the Super Daihatsu to a tank, and then I realized, oh wait, not everybody who can equip a Super Daihatsu can actually equip the tank. And then since all my other Akitsuki class destroyers were already used and Maya was already used, I had to bring her. And from here on, now we go to the boss. The boss itself has, so before the final kill, you have 2 potential formations, which are are fairly similar. The main difference is one has 2 battleship Himeis and one has the Henderson. And then here's the boss once it loads. And also, if you do the debuff properly, she's supposed to say Masaka, but it's also very soft and kind of not easy to hear at all, unless you turn off the music. But as you can hear, the boss theme is pretty nice. The Central Hime, see here, 900 HP. This is the Henderson formation, which has 173 prior for air superiority, approximately. For the English wiki, so let's see what WikiWiki says on this. 174. I would go for the higher one just to be safe. See here, air support did a lot of damage to her, and pretty much that's effectively the boss. You also got the supply depot Hime. She on the final kill actually becomes the damage form, and everything else pretty much stays the same. And then you also got the artillery doing their thing. So tanks have more use than just killing the boss. They also have to use dealing with the supply depot Hime and the artilleryums. And honestly, Sasuke, she's I think she's the number 2, has ID number 2, as in she's my first destroyer drop after the starter who is Inazuma. And she has due to her, she has she's level 80 something, and she's on E-6. I would say she did really good work dodging everything. I thought she was going to be a liability with her low HP and low armor, as just because she's a multi-class destroyer. But in the end, she was actually pretty damn good at dodging everything, regardless of her how much HP and armor she has. And oftentimes at the boss, she would end up being unscathed, surprisingly. And Sasuke, that's why she's clearly the best Mutsuki. And also has a sword. And also, if only a Destroyer's Destiny could update faster. But yeah, Sasuke's great. But other than that, that's E-6, pretty much. You can see air superiority does the majority of damage, then you do go into night battle, and because the boss is weak to the standard installation type anti-installation weapons, so you bring those along and hope you kill the boss. And I know Yudo has the 2 rocket guns, WG-42 rockets, I believe. And unfortunately, she kind of choked here, but Oyudo has the potential to do maximum damage. At least on E7 at the very least. So E6, finishing off the boss on E6 did take a bit of tries, but ultimately though, it didn't really take that much. So pretty much what happened, I came home from work, did my whatever I do when I get home from work. Then I afterwards, from there on though, first shot of the day, I was trying to kill the boss. I got the boss in the final kill yesterday. I had a few shots the previous day and didn't succeed, but then the first attempt on the next day, done. And did. And then it came the weekend, and that was E7, which I've already beat E7 at the time of this recording, so E7, very interesting map. We're talking more about E7 later, but for now, let's continue talking about E6. So E6, I said already said previously, the biggest threat on making it the boss is the blue-eyed woes on those 2 nodes, as I mentioned. But ideally, you should always be bringing Fleet Command Facility, so you can have her, so you can bring anyone can escort people back, so you make it the boss, and hopefully your support fleet will just fuck up the boss, and then everything will be all good from there. One thing you can try is bringing enough fighters for just air superiority instead of air supremacy and having more bombers. I honestly, do recommend air supremacy, but I don't exactly remember if I went for air supremacy on the final kill, because it's been a while since I actually beat E-6, but theoretically, air supremacy should have the bigger effect on having your air support do the most damage, but air supremacy superiority means since you have more bombers, your carriers their aerial phase can do more damage to the boss, which the boss is not just weak to air support, I should mention. She's weak to pretty much dive bombers and torpedo bombers in general, the initial airstrike. So, not just air support, but your actual carriers in the fleet will also do max damage. So that's pretty much how you deal with the boss. You just make it the boss and hope. Your best chances, the recommended fleet is what I'm using pretty much. Except heavy cruiser, you can arguably bring Maya. I still think is the better option, primarily because anti-cutting is just makes it so you can bring Maya in the main fleet, and then you can just have a stronger destroyer in your escort fleet, who can be equipped with maybe if you have more Daihatsu or more tanks. She can have those, and your escort fleet is better for hopefully killing the boss. And that's pretty much all of E-6. One thing to note is if you're using Kanko Fear for calculating air superiority, most people would say use the bigger number, but I personally use the smaller number just to be safe, because oftentimes you're gonna be losing some fighters, and a lot of bombers on the way to the boss. So I like to use the smaller number, which is supposed to be the minimum air superiority you can potentially get, just to be safe. Line of sight, there's supposedly a line of sight check from node G to node H, but like all line of sight checks, it doesn't really matter, ever since that one event where you need to bring like lots of sirens and seaplanes to get line of sight. Nowadays it's just the usual, just bring standard fleet and you're just gonna have line of sight just by virtue of having a fleet. So that's pretty much all of E6 I can talk about. I think some people have tried the northern route, but as I said, since node M to node L is random, as far as I know, you don't really want to take that route. One thing that I should talk about is so before there was actually an issue with E6, or at least there was an issue with land-based bombers, and potentially the debuff for E6 may not have worked. Which means, since the debuff for E6 did not work, you had to deal with a 900 HP boss with no way to actually do 900 HP damage worth to the boss. It is possible though. Some people, a select handful of people did actually beat E6 before everything was fixed. But even then, after things were fixed, we still need to figure out how you're supposed to debuff the boss. But then, devs just straight up told us how to debuff the boss, and then we beat E6. And then E6 arguably went from the horrific, impossible map that just can't be done, and it became the map that was just, you want to have that clutch air support. It's like clutch torpedo cutting, except not with torpedoes. So I guess you could throw in a torpedo bomber in there, though I think in that situation, if there was a torpedo bomber, they would technically be just holding on a bigger bomb, because that's why torpedo bombers can attack installations, because they supposedly can carry bigger bombs, so they can carry bombs that are better against installation types. Since I guess torpedoes are heavier than what dive bombers carry, so they have the better they can carry those bombs. I think that is the reason why. And then we're almost at the boss though. The boss is relatively straightforward, though. Killing the boss, if you can get a lucky airstrike, and you can do 4 digits worth of damage to the boss. I've had the boss been one-shotted by air support, but you don't expect that to happen every time. But it is possible. If that happens though, once you reach your final kill, that is pretty much a godsend, because you just dealt with the boss right there. You don't even have to worry anymore, and then you don't even have to go to night battle. Though if you can S-rank to the boss, you might want to do that, because I believe E-6 drops. Let me check. Yeah, E-6 can drop ISHIO, the Neo Kaguro class destroyer, another trophy destroyer. I didn't really get her, but I don't really care that much about trophy destroyers because they just take up space and they're just there, potentially never to be used, or to be used sometimes, especially if the 2 kamikaze class destroyers. One is the reward one from the E-7. And now let's just watch the boss get killed without any commentary, because I don't have much left to say.
この秋津丸本領を発揮するであります。第二次攻撃の強化を急いで。私は砲台撃戦的中燃えちゃいます。目標前方が敵艦隊砲撃用意砲台撃ちから始め。全然よく狙って手打ち方始めてください。敵艦隊攻撃戦の始めるよ。みんな当たらなきゃね。表現いっぱい。なんだよ見るなって。左舷本線開始。航空艦の真の力もう一例。この格好は以前には見せたくない。行くわよ。前期突撃。沈みなさい。ファイヤーファイヤー。昇格ね。やるよ。パンチ風飛び。攻撃隊発艦始め。進化したこの秋津丸。進化したこの秋津丸するであります。本領を発揮するであります。攻撃開始。さあ始めるわ。本当にアウトレッチしてあげるんだから。攻撃隊全部私が被弾するなんて誘爆を防いで。行くわよ。大丈夫。全機まだ片付け抱えるわ。出航48問攻撃戦車真の力もう一例。野戦か望むところだ。各艦僕が先頭で行く。そこだ撃て。93式酸素魚雷やっちゃってよ。沈んじゃえ。信じられない。そうこれが本当の大山の力よ。開いてください。四方よく狙って。信じられない。そうか生まれた理由を成し遂げたのだな。そうなのね。気持ちわかる。
So in the end, I did notice that I did actually have air supremacy, You can tell from the when the text pops up for air superiority. If you don't understand Japanese, you can tell if they're based on the number of characters. So if there's 5 of them, that's pretty much you have air supremacy. If there's 4, you got air superiority pretty much. Unless there's more than those 2 potential texts, not including the they have air superiority or neither. So for E6, once you beat it, you get a number of rewards. So on hard, you get 8 screws. On medium, you just get 7 screws. Easy, you get no screws at all. All difficulty gets the PBY 5A Catalina. And all difficulties also get a medal. On hard, you also get the Type 1 land attacker from the Nonaka squadron. And those are pretty much your rewards. And then from there on, it's you get to go to E7. So a few things I would like to talk about. So, recommended fleet does include a torpedo cruiser. For the torpedo cruiser, there's really not that much of a difference if you have her for double attack setup or cut-in setup. The biggest advantage of a cut-in setup, in my opinion, is just having a stronger torpedo stat for your open and torpedo strike, because she's not gonna do anything to boss at all, so it's arguably irrelevant. For your battleships, Type 3 shells versus AP shells, in hindsight, I feel like AP shells are better, because if I recall correctly, artillery imps aren't affected by Type 3 shells, and AP shells have a better effect overall, have more effect on more enemies, and just more power. So, I say AP shells is what I would recommend. And then torpedo cruiser, it doesn't really matter. If she has luck stat, go for cut-in. Otherwise, double attack. I mean, I did use a cut-in setup in the end, but that was because I really didn't really care. And then you gotta have you want your 2 carriers to have at least 1 bomber, and then as much fighters, minimum fighters required for air supremacy. That's what I recommend, and aviation battleships as well. And then give them a seaplane bomber, and then if you have Maya, have her in the main fleet with anti-air cut-in. Otherwise, Akisuki class destroyer. And that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys for E7. See you guys then, and good night.